Suits. I know people out there on the over the phone today. People are watching the YouTube, looking, hopefully trying to catch a glimpse of the Glen Suitor. He's over the phone today. But you know what I meant to ask you the other day, and I know people text in and ask, they want a bear update. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, yeah, bear update is our Big Daddy Bear came by again, was right on the front lawn, and still as nonchalant as ever. So in other words, strolls across, sits down, and again, picture the Winnie the Pooh pose when he's sitting there with his bowl of honey, but it's a huge black bear with a head the size of like 4 watermelons put together. So, yeah, there's your bear update.
There it is, bear update, brought to you by Bronco Plumbing and Heating.
No, brought to you by the taxidermy shop down the street.
We you know what we need? We need you. I don't know if you're like the kids and you're super proficient when you're taking a selfie, but any kind of selfie with the bear in the background, you need to take that and send it to us. So when we have you on, we can put the photo up of Glenn and the bear.
That is a new project, Barney. I promise I'll get it done this summer. Because he'll be back. Oh, yeah. Now, the only thing is I'm going to have to explain to my wife why I'm running around with the bear and trying to look over my shoulder while I take a picture.
Yeah, you can do it through a window. You don't have to be outside on the lawn with them. You can do it through the window.
Oh, no. I'm going outside. I got to go outside and just keep the door open and be ready to run. But, yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Vancouver man was mauled by a bear yesterday.
Rider legend Glen Suitor.
Okay, buddy, you're calling the game tonight?
Yes. Yeah, I'm in Winnipeg, actually sitting right in the broadcast booth right now. And I got to say something, guys, because walking around today getting lunch in the mall here in Winnipeg, another sellout, okay, here at Princess Auto Stadium. So this is 7 straight going back to last year where they had 5 in a row. Now, listen, I know they have a good team. So, this is a team that's gone to the Grey Cup 5 straight years. So, yeah, obviously their fan base is ignited and they like it and they love the fact they're winning. So that's a big part of this. But I know we got the game this weekend. I'll be flying to Saskatchewan, Dustin and I, right after this one, and get ready for the Riders hosting the Lions. And I know ticket sales are going well for that. But this is a Rider team that now has not been beaten yet this year, that has found different ways to win, has some things to clean up. I know you guys mentioned penalties, and man, I would definitely agree with that. And I talked to Corey Mace today, and let's put it this way, it's been addressed, the penalty issue. So I don't expect to see that again. But yeah, it's a subtle but little nudge to Rider Nation. I'm walking through the malls having difficulty when someone comes up and goes, "Oh, there's the Rider guy." I still get that, even though it was 30 years ago. And the Rider guy. What about our stadium? Our stadium's full. Your stadium's not full. I said, well, first of all, it's not my stadium, but I know what you're saying. And I'll just mention subtly and give a little nudge to Rider Nation that let's fill up the park, because there's no better place to do a game than at Mosaic when it's full.
I would have been more impressed if someone would have come up and said, "That's the scuba diving teacher from the Cayman Islands," instead of the Rider guy. But hey, that's besides the point. What are you hearing about Nathan Rourke from Farhan's message today out on Twitter? It doesn't sound good. I can't see him playing if he's not slinging it on Thursday.
Well, it's interesting. Both teams are sort of up in the air at quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, in Vancouver, this is just reading between the lines. Again, there has not been a decision made, both for the Saskatchewan Roughriders and for the Lions. It's going to be a game day decision. But I would be very surprised if Nathan plays. Even if he's semi-ready. Again, it's so early in the season. It's a marathon, and to have that type of injury, a muscle injury, a soft tissue injury in your midsection when you're a quarterback and have to use that all to throw, and that's your rotation and your throwing and everything, and to be messing with that this early in the season, I think would be too risky, and this is just, how I would handle it, basically. So I'd be surprised. And as far as the Riders, it's still up in the air. Coach May said they're going to go right to game day, see how Trevor feels. He has to pass some protocols and things like that. But, that's why you bring in a guy like Jeremiah Mazzoli in BC and Jake Mayer in Regina. You do that, so you got a veteran guy behind him, and you expect for those veteran guys to play at a high level.
We had a great conversation earlier in the show with Arash, specifically around the offensive and defensive lines and how that's been a strength for the Riders this year, because they're not giving up sacks and they're leading the league in sacks. Can you tell us your thoughts on that, and can you tell us why is that such a big benefit for both sides of the ball?
Yeah. I mean, when you win that side, when you win in the trenches, you often win games, and we've said that many, many times. But I think for the Riders on the O-line, it's a combination of the coach in May's making this a priority in the offseason, making sure he has depth. He already lost a couple of all-star O-linemen before we even started the season, and was able to fill those spots and not just sort of hang in there, but as we mentioned, play at a very high level. But the combination, though, is they've got a veteran quarterback behind them that is recognizing defenses so quickly, getting the ball out of his hands on time. That can really help. It's the same thing that you see often with Bomber games. I'm looking right now at the O-line sort of warm up as we speak and thinking, their O-line has always been one of the best in the league, and Zach's been sacked fewest times in the league, more than not. And the reason for that is twofold. They're good up front, no question, no one's taking anything away from them. But they also have a veteran quarterback who knows how to get the ball out of his hands, can recognize blitz, doesn't give up a lot of those type of plays. So I think it's a combination. But it's funny, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was coaching minor hockey guys, the coaches always told me the first thing that you have to teach kids is how to get out of your own end. And I thought, what if I switched the script on that and said, I'm going to teach them first to keep the puck in the offensive end. And just, think outside the box for a second. And we prioritize that. And rather than having 2-1, 3-2 games early in the season, because we prioritize the offensive end of the rink and how to pinch and keep it in, that we were playing in 5-4 games because, we were still shaky getting it out of our end. I'm not suggesting that that's the better way to do it in hockey, but what I mean is, when you prioritize something, make it a big part of your plan in the off season and in training camp in the preseason, it's almost always going to come through for you on the field. And I think that's what happened with the Rider O-line. They prioritize it, and they're playing better.
Where, if you're the Riders right now and you're game planning, let's say offensively, where do you think that they're going to attack BC?
Well, based on the two games against Winnipeg, and the Bombers right now are leading the league in rushing per game, and I've said that many times about the Bombers. They're averaging 143 yards a game rushing, and those two games were against the Lions. So for me, I'd be looking at a game plan that would suggest some A.J. Ouellette and a little more of Ouellette and keep running. And whether it's, play action out of that, but make sure you establish that run, because the Lions have, since last year, as a matter of fact, have struggled being consistent against it. And then once you get that going, boy, you become a two-dimensional offense, and it's very tough to defend. So just in some ways oversimplified, guys, I would say attack what seems to be a weakness again on the D-line and linebacking core of the Lions. And they've got some good personnel, don't get me wrong, but they just have not been consistent against the run. 143 yards a game in two games for the Bombers against BC. I would go ahead and see if they'll stop the run. If they don't, keep doing it.
What are you shaking your head at me for, Barney? You're giving me an oddball look. I want to talk a little bit about the injury list and where the Riders are at. We've seen different players go in and out.
Here's your list.
Yeah, I've been working on this. He gave me homework to do. The Riders are top of the league, one of the top 4 teams in terms of injured players. Is there something specific we should be aware of, or is this just fluke and bad luck?
looking bad luck. It can happen to any team. And I mean, look at BC. BC doesn't have their starting quarterback the last 2 games. I mean, they've lost a couple of D linemen. The Riders have been hit harder than most, yes. The fact that it's early in the game, and this is me trying to be a little bit half full on this, because there's no way to sugarcoat losing very good players like Sam Emilus and not having them available. Like, I'm not putting my head in the sand in the hole that creates. But if it's early in the season, those guys will be back. And when they come back, Joe Robustelli and players like that have now got 3 or 4 games under their belt. So now, whether it's a rotation later in the season or you're into that final 7, 8 games of the season when you're positioning for playoff spots, home field advantage in the playoffs, things like that, you've got a much more experienced group top to bottom, including the backups in places like receiver, O-line, and places where they've been hurt. So if you're going to have injuries and you're going to have to go through them, early in the season is better than later. And there's my way to create a narrative that is a half full rather than half empty approach.
Nicely done. Nicely done, Suits. You turned a negative into a positive. I like it.
All right. Hey, Kay, before we let you go, we're going to talk about this because we talked to Arash about it. How jacked were you when you heard that? Did you hear Pat McAfee talking about Canada in the flag football first off, and how jacked were you when you heard Canada went 4-0 down in Los Angeles?
I think I retweeted it. I don't tweet or Twitter or whatever, guys. I don't do it much, but I was excited about it. And last night our whole team got together, Dustin and all the crew, and we were talking about was flag football. We ran into Commissioner. He joined us for a quick beverage last night as well. He talked extensively about flag football and how important it is in our country. And to hear, I love the part where McAfee says, "This can't happen. This cannot happen. This is not acceptable. They don't have a good team." And then his co-host says, "No, they have a pretty good squad." And he goes, "No, they don't. No, they do not. They cannot beat. Canada cannot beat us in football. No." So I just thought, this is going to be fun. I mean, we've got 2 years. We've got qualifying at tournaments. Canada didn't lose a game in that friendly one. They beat Japan twice and Australia and the U.S. to open their tournament. This is going to be fun, guys. I love it. I know, Barney, you're right into flag football.
Oh.
And it's going to be great for our sport in general. It really is.
Hey,
Men
Glenn,
and women.
Glenn, if you ever hear of anyone, if they need anyone to do play-by-play of a flag football, you make sure I'll get my resume. I don't even know. I think it's like on an old PC at home somewhere.
It's on a floppy disk.
It's on a floppy disk. I'll get some audition tapes together. All right, man. Well, have a great call tonight. Thanks for doing this from the booth. Tell Dusty we say hi.
He's right beside me. The crew at CKRM says hi. Dusty says hi.
And
the Rider Nation.
Tell him I did hammer Wheat Fall on the anytime touchdown bet.
Barney hammered Wheatfall. He's got Wheatfall. He's giving you the thumbs up on the Wheatfall.
I like it.
All right, boys. Have a good call tonight, Suits. See you later.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank you.